that name had been in contention for an album title for a little while, and I think that we all for our own reasons, but for me, it sounded very calming. I've witnessed that phenomenon, and it's just like this beautiful, tranquil feeling that, at least for me, that I would get when I see that. Like it's getting towards sunset in the mountains, and they just kind of turn red. They look like they're on fire almost. And I thought that that was a really interesting concept, I guess, of thinking about an album. Is maybe like a fantasy. Like I would hope it would make people feel like that, like looking at that, you know. Artistically, I think we do feel like we're evolving, and I don't think that we would keep making albums if we didn't. I don't think I would want to anyway. As far as how it differs from the like previous albums, a main difference would be our producer, which we've only worked with a couple of producers over those 10 records. This time was Jeff Tweedy, who brought a lot of really new to us kind of arrangement, and like worked on the arrangements of the songs with us a lot, which we haven't really had that much help with, which I think for us, even just that little bit of just somebody else who we respect coming in and helping us change the songs around a little to try to make them a little more interesting than stuff we've done before. For me, that's kind of the biggest difference here. We recorded it all live, so we're all just sitting in a circle playing. I sang everything live, so it's got kind of a loose feeling to it, which I really enjoy. Not everything we've done has been quite that casual, but those things I feel like for me set it apart. Well, it came about because we were going to play some shows with them originally in 2020, which all got that tour got canceled, but we were thankfully lucky enough to get them rebooked for 2021, I think it was. We ended up playing with them, and we were planning on going into the studio and planning on finding somebody to produce our record, because our last one we just did on our own. And I think just having that on the calendar, I was very excited. I've been a big Wilco fan since I was a teenager. So I thought like that was kind of just an easy pick, a name that was right in front of us the whole time. Somebody whose work I really admire, and his producing work I really admire too. I really love the stuff he's done with Mavis Staples, for instance. So we just reached out, and he said he'd do it, and we went down to I guess it's Wilco's studio in Chicago, the Loft, which is this really incredible kind of just vibey big open room, and the control room is right in the studio, like right in the space where we were recording. Like I said, we just kind of sat in a circle live. Jeff came and played guitar on a bunch of the songs. It was almost like rehearsing, but we were recording, so it was really fun. I think that we work really well that way, which maybe he caught on to, or maybe that's how he always does it. But it was a really great experience working with him, that's for sure. I usually, how it works is I'll write the song to where I can get it to, I can play it on a guitar and sing it. So verses, melody, chord structure, that kind of stuff, and then bring it into the studio, and everybody usually learns it while we're recording it. This time was a lot like that. It was I thought they were finished when I brought him in, but like I said, Jeff kind of dissected most of the stuff on here, and for instance, like the versions that we ended up with on the album are a lot different than the demos that I had made just on my own. So we ended up doing both. Like I thought, I came in with songs, but then we ended up improvising on almost all of them and changing them up as we went. I would say the same thing. That would be the best advice that I would give too. And because from my experience, when I go through it, I think everybody in creative work, as a writer, you probably go through this too, where I have kind of peaks and valleys of creativity. And I'll be very, very creative for a while, and then I'll go through a time when I just don't feel like doing anything, and I want to do other stuff, but I find if I make myself write at least a little bit every day, then I stay in this area where I can always make a song happen. And if I let it go for a month, say I don't write, I write, and it gets so much harder for me to start back up. So I think that staying ahead of that, and just, it doesn't have to be songs, it doesn't have to be anything. Just keep your brain working in that writing space each day a little bit. For me, that's the best thing that you can do. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. There were three of us in the band initially. Our banjo player Dave Carroll, our mandolin player Eric Berry, and me. We were playing in different rock bands in the little town of Duluth, Minnesota, up on Lake Superior. And this started as just kind of a side project. None of us had ever really played acoustic music, folk music, whatever, bluegrass music, whatever you want to call it. And so we started learning old songs. Eric was the only mandolin player I'd ever seen in my life. And Dave was saying the same really with the banjo. We had no experience at all, but we started finding old records and learning old bluegrass songs, and then just started playing a couple shows as the three of us. Just, times we weren't playing with the other bands, we would play a show in town like that. And at least in that little town, it kind of caught on, and so we poured a little more effort into it. Other bands simultaneously kind of broke up at that same time. We were all, like in our 20s, and people were graduating college or whatever. So our other bands didn't work out, and we were kind of just left with this, and decided to make it a priority and to write our own music with this instrumentation, maybe songs that we would have written for other bands, but use them in the kind of the string band format. Yeah, I think, we definitely started that way. I think we're probably a little less so now that we're old fogies, but I kind of grew up listening to punk rock and just more energetic kind of rock, and like raw rock music was stuff that I still really love that stuff, but that was stuff that I was really into at the time when we started. And I think I found a lot of that same energy in early bluegrass music, like Bill Monroe. The people that were doing it first, it was real rough, man. It wasn't like the kind of the polished version that we have nowadays. These people were very rural. They had no formal training, and they made songs about their life and their work and their families, and it was very simple, but in a very artistic way, beautiful way that's hard to get to if you don't live it, I think. And I really gravitated towards that, and I saw a lot of that, the same, that same, I keep saying the word raw, but I don't know another word for it, rawness, and I don't want to say purity either, because that word has like weird connotations that I don't really like in music, but it's something that's hard to fake. And I found that there was that in this early bluegrass music that I found myself listening to. I felt that same way as when I maybe, listened to like a punk record in high school or something. There was some kind of overlap in that Venn diagram that really attracted me to it. And I think that now, so that I guess what I'm saying is that's I think that maybe that's the background from where we came to string band music, from a little bit more of that like loose rock background than more of like a traditionally trained musician. I like to think it's all of them now. Yeah, when I was younger and my musical library was smaller, I really usually fell back on the songwriters, because that's my favorite part about all of it. Bob Dylan, early favorite, and still will probably always be my favorite songwriter. Tom Van Zandt, another one, Tom Waits. So really into that, I guess, genre of music, just singer-songwriters, like folky kind of country songwriters from when I was younger. And then now, through our band, through starting a band in Duluth, which was a really diverse music scene of a city, I got exposed to so many different kinds of music, just being young and playing music in that town. And then now just being on tour for so long, that I really find aspects of almost every style of music I can think of that I really love. So I mean, I love Latin music, and I still love punk rock, and I love country music, and I think casting a wide net feels natural to me, I think. It's definitely different. I mean, it's relative to places like New York or LA, it's a small town. And it's in the middle of the country in a very cold place, but it's still very artistically alive. A lot of people, um, I mean, I actually know firsthand now, kind of a lot of the Duluth music scene, because this year we made a grant, right? So we gave away some money to a Duluth band, and we started that program, and this was the first year we did it. So we had people apply for the grant, right? So we had like 85 artists send in applications for this money, and so I went through them all and got to listen to all this music that I honestly had no idea was happening. And so it was really refreshing and very exciting to hear that. So yeah, there's a lot happening there, and it's, you know, with things have gotten so much more interconnected since the time I started playing music, even now, where a band in Duluth, Minnesota, for instance, can have just as much access to music from anywhere in the world as anybody. And so I think people's music has gotten much more diverse maybe than it would have been 20, 30 years ago, when you were more restricted to going to a record store and buying albums that you know, usually you kind of follow a path in there, something you've heard of, whatever. Now people are exposed to music from everywhere much faster. Just like one stream through a Bandcamp new and noteworthy section or whatever, and I hear bands from 10 different countries or something like that. So I think that's like everything else that has its pluses and minuses for me, but one cool byproduct of that is that bands have a huge pool from which to pull for influences. So I hear all, like, tons of different kinds of music coming out of Duluth or Minneapolis, where I live now, or pick a town. Really, everybody has the same music library now, so it's interesting. I hope so. We're working on it. We haven't been over to visit for a long time, and we all really miss it, and we're trying. Yes, so nothing concrete yet, nothing on the website yet, but hopefully in the next year or so we'll figure something out. I love it. I love playing in Germany all the times we played there. Um, I would say that I guess the obvious difference is that we play with smaller places there, so the dynamic is a little different, and one that we all really enjoy. To be honest, like I love playing clubs. I've always loved it, and that's where we get to play there, and so that's a little bit more, a little bit more intimate with the audience, which I really like that. I was born. I didn't get to live in Germany for very long, but I was born there. Yeah, it's kind of a traditional rock band setup, electric guitars, drums, keyboards. So that musically it's a bit different. There's some overlap in songs, but it's kind of a little outlet for me to do that. Like, 'cause, I mean, if people play music, there's nothing as fun as playing electric guitar in front of a drum kit, as far as I'm concerned. We don't play all that often when Chamber Bachos is busy, but we do get to play a little bit locally, and once in a while we get out on little tours and stuff. But it's some really good friends of mine, and always a pleasure to do that too. It's hard to say. I don't know. I mean, they have bands like that have great songs, which I feel like songs are always connect with people. The Marcus Mumford, for instance, I feel like is a great songwriter, and I feel like both Two Foxes too. I feel like those guys have songs that connect with people, and I think that no matter what the instrumentation is, that will always work. Um, and I think that there may be, as we go farther ahead musically, artistically, where a lot of music now is created completely on what we're talking on, right, on laptop, which is cool. It's super fun. It's creative. It's like beyond my ability, so I'm just a little bit mystified by a lot of that. But I think that when a pendulum swings like that direction a lot, I think there's always going to be a little bit of a reaction the other way, where that, you know, maybe all of a sudden a banjo or an acoustic guitar, which used to be so maybe taken for granted, is now unique, or is now, you know, it's like it's now almost an alternative form of making a song. So I think that there will always be an appeal for that as well. I think that's why, like, in the 80s, a lot of electronic music became so popular so fast, was because it was not what was happening, you know. And so there's like, oh, there's this thing, this is cool. And then I don't know, I think to come back to the original answer though, I think it's like, to me, it doesn't matter if it's a Roland or a mandolin or whatever. It's if the song is there, it's just gonna work, I think. Mostly like ambient stuff. I'm into that. I actually have another side project called More Light. That's we've played 2 shows in our existence, so very much a side project. But it's a kind of a drone ambient band with a few friends that's kind of rotates members once in a while. But I get into that stuff, yeah.